though.
Very, very small
Okay,
chances that
thank you.
it's more likely to disappear the plan.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to call the Personnel Committee to order and ask for approval of the minutes from the past, I think, 2 committee meetings. Moved by Supervisor Conover and seconded by,
I'll second it.
Supervisor Runyon. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. First off, I'd like to welcome everyone to the committee. I'd like to thank Supervisor Bramer for a fine job in 2021. And with that, we'll move on to the action agenda. And the first item is SUNY Adirondack. Is there any representative here from SUNY today that would like to bring us up to date? Okay. Okay, with that, we'll move on to number 2, and that's items to be discussed by the Human Resource Director, Jackie.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have 3 items on my agenda this morning. The first 2 are the usual reports that I provide monthly for your review. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has about those reports at this time.
No
Are there
question.
any questions?
No.
I don't see anything.
Okay. The final item that I have is a request to authorize a memorandum of agreement with CSEA to extend the updated out-of-unit education reimbursement policy to the membership of CSEA. You may remember later, I believe in November of 2021, the education reimbursement policy was updated for the out-of-unit employees with the intention of extending it to other bargaining units after we go through the additional steps required due to the fact that they are union groups. So we are working on that process, and CSEA is the first group that we are going to extend those benefits to.
Okay, would someone care to
Make that motion?
moved by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Discussion. Any comments or questions?
No.
Okay, hearing none, then I'll call the question. Are we all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Anything else, Jackie?
Nope, that's it this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, number 3 is items to be discussed by the county attorney, Mr. Elman.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. The first item is a request for an additional transfer of funds to cover 2 additional cell phones for my office in an attempt to give us the ability to work remote and to be more responsive in non-business hours. We find there's repeat occasions where we are needed outside of the normal business hours. Often it has to do with family court matters. So that's the first request, subject to questions on that.
Do we have a motion to
I'll
bring?
make the motion.
Moved by Supervisor Frazier, seconded by Supervisor Wild. Discussion. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none or seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. B.
I would ask the committee to consider and take a vote for an executive session so that we may discuss specific actions, but also a general update on litigation matters now involving the county. And those matters are listed on the agenda. I would ask that Assistant County Attorney Robert Terwilliger also be allowed to join in, as he will be specifically addressing the Morgan litigation on behalf of my office.
Yes, Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't see on this particular list the case by Maxim against the county. And we know that we received a favorable decision yesterday, so I wanted to note that before we go into executive session, because it's pretty great that that lawsuit was dismissed against the county. And I'll make the motion to go into executive for the other litigation listed.
Okay.
As well as the Maxim v. Pam Vogel as county clerk in the county of Warren matter, which it did circulate to the board last night.
Right.
Thank you for that.
I will amend my motion to include that one as well.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. We have a motion to go into executive session. We have a second.
Second.
A second by Supervisor Frazier. The executive session is to discuss litigation with the county from various cases. There's a whole list of them here on the agenda. So I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You are live.
Okay, thank you. We're back out of executive session. While there was a lot of discussion, no action was taken during the executive session. However, there are there's one resolution that the county attorney is asked us to consider. And this resolution is authorizing the county attorney to negotiate and tender an amount up to the county insurance policy deductible to settle all claims in the matter of Quester French versus Derek Williams. And Supervisor Conover moves that, seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Any discussion? I'll call the question on that resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I think we still have a forum there.
There's one more for Allergan.
Yep. And then the next item is 3C, and that's to request to ratify the actions of the chairman of the board, county attorney, and Napoli Chinolik, special counsel for the county with regard to executing all documents required to accept Allergan New York settlement and sharing agreement in the New York subdivision election and release form with Allergan and its subsidiaries. And that's moved by Supervisor Conover and seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay. That was all that came out of executive session. We'll move on to number 4, and that's the tracking report from the clerk of the board.
The report's included in the agenda, and if you have any questions, you can call our office.
Thank you. Number 5 is referrals from the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. The first section is probation, and A is a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to change the title of probation per diem to probation transfer monitoring with a stipend of $3,000, retroactive to January 3rd, 2022. Moved by Supervisor Frazier.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Supervisor Weil. Basically changing the name from per diem to stipend. Any discussion?
No.
I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. B is from the Office of Emergency Services, and it's a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to increase the salary of the position of building maintenance helper from $5,279 to $5,437 effective January 1st, 2022. Someone care to move this? Moved by Supervisor Frazier, seconded by Supervisor Runyon. Any questions or discussion?
No.
Yes, Mr. Waller.
Chairman, is this just another example of what we had last month with this, a couple of individuals being left out of the salary increase?
Yes.
Okay.
It was an inadvertent mistake. It's off the chart. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Looks like C has been crossed out, at least on my agenda here.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move on to the sheriff, item D. And this is a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to create 4 full-time contingent permanent civil service correction officer positions effective February 21st, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Supervisor Wild. And
I'll second it.
seconded by Supervisor Runyon. Any discussion?
Just
Yes.
for the record, just for our county administrators, I understand this does not increase the operational structure, administrative structure of the jail. What this does is it increases the reservoir of personnel available to fill that structure.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. I was not at the criminal justice meeting, I don't believe, but I'm just asking why this wasn't dealt with through the budget process.
This is a new request. These 4 contingent positions will fill in for correction officers that are out on active military orders. Whereas right now it creates a vacancy within his structure. So these people will fill in for those people that are out. And if those people return back from the military, these people exit.
And all 4 of those positions are out due to military.
I'm not sure there's 4 at this time, but he wanted 4 because from experience, he seems to think that that's what he needs.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is essentially, at the end of the day, it's a cost saving measure because rather than paying, you have to fill posts that are in your posting schedule that's mandated by the state. And if you don't have a fresh individual to fill a post, you have somebody filling that post on overtime. So this is a way to, when you have somebody out on military leave or other long-term leave, that person's still holding their full-time slot. And this is a way to have other people that are in the roster that can be called in to fill that shift without changing the overall number as indicated previously of active correction officer slots that we have at any given time.
I appreciate the explanation. The heart of my question though was did this situation arise after the budget process, or, you know, I mean, clearly this is not, why wasn't this foreseen in the budget process?
This is a problem that has existed, and this is a solution that the sheriff, it's existed for some time, and this is a solution that the sheriff has brought forward at this time. And there is no impact on the budget because we have savings associated with these individuals who are out on this leave. So,
It just seems like this kind of conversation should happen, you know, during that time. This kind of, you know, I understand that it's 0 impact on the budget, but it's still creation of positions and.
Yeah.
That's all. Just a comment.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, move on to E, and it's a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to delete the position of patrol officer part-time, $20.37 per hour, effective February 21st, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Supervisor Boyle, seconded by Supervisor Conover. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? F is a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to create and fill the new position of Patrol Sergeant number 12, annual salary of $84,503, and delete the position of Sergeant Civil Law Enforcement, annual salary of $78,046, effective February 21st, 2022. Moved by Supervisor Conover,
I'll second that.
seconded by Supervisor Wild. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, number 6 is referrals from the Health Services Committee, Public Health. And it's a request to authorize call-in rate for Director of Public Health and Assistant Director of Public Health of $350 per day for Saturdays and Sundays worked, effective retroactive to January 1st, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Conover. Discussion, yes. Administrator Moore.
I would just like to make a request on the record that when the resolution is written for this item, should it pass through this committee, that we speak a bit to procedure as to how this will work. And I would recommend that the approval for the, and you don't have to take my recommendations, but we should come up with a procedure, that the approval for the call-in for this to be, would legitimize that it was a legitimate call-in. I would suggest that Janelle, as Public Health Director, have the ability to call in Pat Belden. That's the other position affected by this resolution. That call-in be communicated to myself and the chair of the Public Health Committee, Chair Edna Frazier. If you want to do different officials, that's fine with me too. And ratified by those two. And likewise, that a call-in for Janelle would have to have the approval of the county administrator and the public health chair. Additionally, when work is done on the weekends, if it's done remotely, that these two employees would have to remote punch. And if it's done physically in the building, then they would hit the clock in the building. I would also request that the resolution speaks to the extraordinary nature of this work and that it's outside the regular scope of duties.
I would be prepared to, I think I was the second on that motion.
Mm.
Who made that motion?
Yes, I did.
I'm prepared to amend the motion to include those elements.
And my only question is that overly burdensome to ask for the chair of the committee and the chair of the board to do it, or could one or the other just do that? Does it have to be both?
I don't mind it being me. And I believe I floated it to Edna and I don't think she had an objection to it.
So is the policy going to be in this resolution or not?
Yes.
Yes, I think it
Let's
needs
just
to be.
kind of limit, if you don't mind, if you think it's all right, let's just limit the number of people that have to be contacted to allow them to respond to something that really needs to be responded to. My sense.
If you want to leave it to the county administrator, that's fine with me.
It's fine with me also, if it's fine with the committee or other supervisors.
Yes, Supervisor Driscoll.
Just a suggestion to cover yourself in the event that Administrator Moore isn't available on a particular weekend. Supervisor Frazier would be the backup
Hmm.
person.
Great, I agree to that.
I agree.
Good idea.
Any other, any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, number 7 is a referral from the Health Services Committee. And it's a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to create and fill a new position of principal account clerk. Grade 10, base annual salary of $40,874, and delete the position of senior support investigator number 2, grade 11, base annual salary of $41,425, effective February 21st. Moved by Supervisor Conover,
Second it.
seconded by Supervisor Wild. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 8 is a referral from the Legislative Rules and Government Operations Committee, County Clerk, and it's a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to create and fill the new position of Senior Motor Vehicle Examiner, number 3, grade 10, base annual salary, $40,784, and delete the position of Principal Account Clerk, grade 10, base annual salary of $40,784. Moved by
I'll move it.
Supervisor Onion, seconded by Supervisor Conover. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 9 is requests and items to be discussed by the county treasurer. A is a request to amend the salary schedule to increase the salary of the payroll supervisor from $61,416 to $65,751, effective retroactive to January 3rd, 2022.
I'll make the motion to bring it to the floor.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Wild. Seconded by Supervisor Onion. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, is this the same issue with out of grade or out of bargaining unit that they did not get their?
Yeah, this is the payroll supervisor that was taken out of the bargaining unit. And
I'm here, Chairman, if anybody has a question on this. This is Mike Swan.
okay. County Administrator Moore.
Yeah, but both of these items back in December, I believe, the Board of Supervisors passed a resolution, passed unanimously supporting taking these positions out of the unit. I spoke with the union president and their attorney, and they consented to that. We have that in writing. So this is about assigning them an appropriate salary from the non-union schedule and making that amendment to the salary schedule.
So can we move 9A and 9B?
Can I
Sorry.
can I interject something here? I'm sorry if I'm interrupting. I can't see what's going on.
Sure, go ahead.
Ryan, I don't know on the agendas because I've seen a couple different ones for the technician position. We were going to go with a grade 8 instead of a grade 9. I don't know if it shows on your agendas that now is $47,417 instead of the $50,000 figure.
The $50,000 figure is still on there because that represented your initial request, and we wanted to be
Okay.
of that request, but we did discuss whether it should be an 8 instead of a 9.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that if we want to, just amend this to the $47,417 instead of the $50,262.
Okay,
I'm fine with that modification.
okay. So Supervisor Wild moves A and B with the modification on the request and the B request to $47,17417. Seconded that. Supervisor Runyon, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for for number 9, A and B. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 10 is items to be discussed by the county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is in reference to the messenger. This is the position that circulates all of the county mail. Very important to the operation here. We were notified within the last couple of weeks that the incumbent intends to retire the end of the first week of March. We very quickly reviewed the position description, posted the position. The application period closed on Friday. We've interviewed, I've participated in as many as I could, but I have to thank Tammy DiLorenzo and Christy Miller for also honchoing this. I believe it's been 18 interviews over the past 2 days. So the proposal here would be to have a new position of messenger 2. The grade would be the same. The reason to create the new position, we're hoping to get the new individual in with a little bit of overlap before the incumbent retires. The incumbent is messenger 1. So what we would do is create messenger 2, authorize messenger 2 to be filled, and then we would delete the current messenger position when the incumbent leaves the position. The second, I can speak to the second piece now to be, or I can wait.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, so the second piece is the incumbent has indicated that if we need her to, her mind is open to coming back on a part-time temporary basis to assist with the transition if such is needed. The amount that is in here, I believe it's the dollar amount would be $15,000, and this could go one of 2 ways. We've had discussions about whether or not we want to bring the mail back into house rather than use an outside contractor. We use New York State Industries for the Disabled as our contractor. It used to be Mailings Made Easy. We've had some issues with the performance of the vendor. The vendor is a preferred sole source from the state. It's really the only option out there if we don't do this function in-house. If we do this in-house, it will cost a little more money because I don't know whether it's possible, understanding the daily schedule of the messenger, I don't know whether it's possible to bring the mail in-house and continue to handle all the duties with just one full-time employee. If the Board of Supervisors is comfortable moving down the road of bringing the mail back in-house and terminating the contract, the amount of funds that we've put into this temp helpline, we hope, or that we're proposing to put into the temp help, we hope would provide for several months where we would still have a part-time person in addition to the full-time person so that we can try it out. We could make that transition and see if the full-time person can handle all of it in one day. And if they can't, then, and we need additional help, the intention then would be to come back to the board and request a permanent position as opposed to a temporary position. So there are some moving pieces here. There are some decisions that need to be made. The fundamental piece here is the notion of bringing the mail back in-house is going to help on the performance side, but it will cost us some more money.
Yes.
I'll certainly bring this forward for discussion if it hasn't been done already.
Both A and B of number.
A and B. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Moved by Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor Wild. Number 10, A and B. And Mr. Conover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, small departments are very difficult to transition. They just are. And you have years of knowledge and experience and know-how and that I think that the department heads prepared to come back as needed to help with the transition it really speaks well to our employees and to this employee in particular. And so I support this transition plan. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yes, Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know I'm not on your committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be heard on this. I wish this wasn't brought forward as A and B, but I just want to speak to the B piece of it. I'm so glad to hear that we're looking at bringing the mail back in-house. I know that was something we've heard from our employees for a very long time that they've been interested in having back. But at the time these discussions started, and you may recall previously what that staff looked like way back when we had that department. I think it may be rushing things to say, well, right now let's put money in a temporary line and bring a department head back after they retire. That's not always a well-received move on behalf of this board. And also, you know, is it absolutely needed at this point in time? I know from last year that there were multiple backups in the mail room in terms of that many different people from the Board of Supervisors and the County Administrator's Office who help with mail. And again, I'm really happy to hear that we're going to start working on bringing it back. But at this point in time, it sounds like that's not happening yet. We need to fill due to the retirement, and maybe we should take one step at a time. So if this comes to the full board, I would certainly support you know, filling that position. And I'm sure that the individual's shoes will be hard to fill. But I don't think it's going to be possible with another person on a part-time basis, that we will be right back here talking about another full-time person, but also about how important it is to have these documents that get delivered on a timely basis, that down the road, it may actually have some efficiencies, both financially and qualitative purpose. But I just have concerns about the idea of proceeding at this point to say we need another part-time person with the idea of bringing it back in-house when we haven't done it yet.
Yes, Supervisor Conover.
Yeah, just for clarity, as I read this, it's the purpose of the part-time position is just to bring the department head back to help the transition, should that be required. I mean, we wouldn't do it if it's not required. We're not increasing permanently the staff of that department.
Right. The reason, you know, in pitching 10B as a temp position as opposed to, you know, a part-time position is because either way we decide to go, whether we keep the mail in the house or whether we continue to use the contractor, either way, that temp help line would be helpful. Even if we're not going to bring the mail back in-house, we're trying as hard as we can to get somebody into this position for the 22nd, which is the first active payday after the board meeting, knowing that they don't necessarily have a guarantee that the job will be there because the job hasn't been, and they got to give their 2 weeks notice. We're trying very hard to get somebody in under that timetable so that they'll have 9 days with the incumbent to train. If that does not work out, we could be in a position where there's a gap where the incumbent is not available. And that's why 10B is in there, to give us that flexibility to bring the incumbent back if that training need is still there. There are 2 backups for the mail duties. My confidential assistant is one of them, and one of Amanda Allen's clerks is another one. They could train on mail. The time that they're spending training on mail is time that they're not spending in our 2 offices with the significant workloads that they have in those 2 offices. And they also do not, in terms of the print shop functions, this position also handles the print shop. There is no backup for the print shop functions. We're doing our best, my staff, to bone up on that in the event that we're stuck, but that's training need as well for the new person.
Supervisor Beatty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just think the 15,000 is a little excessive at this point. Could we lower that to like 5,000 in part-time? I don't see, it's almost like superintendents of schools, right? They retire and then they come back and they get gigs all the time in other school districts. And I kind of chuckle at that. I see Jeff Mead chuckling at that. I know it. I think a lower dollar amount I could be comfortable with, but 15,000 seems a little excessive to me at this stage. I think that doesn't make a lot of business sense to me. So I would be comfortable with 5 if you could lower it to 5.
Administrator Moore?
Yeah, if we don't bring the mail in-house, I don't think spend $15,000 here. And the reason why the request is at $15,000 is in the event that we want to use this temp position to get a handle on the staffing needs that we'll have if we bring the mail in-house. So the process of bringing the mail in-house is going to take a little bit. We have to order the equipment. We have to train up on the equipment. We have to terminate the contract. And the idea would be having enough wiggle room in that temporary position to have that person assist with the daily duties until we get a handle on the manpower that it's going to take to perform those duties in the future. That was the reason why we put it in for 15. Again, if we don't bring the mail in-house, I don't think we'll spend the 15.
I was going to say that it would seem to me that you made an estimate that should this take place, you work the number of hours that the temp would may be needed for, and then you take the rate and you work back to a number. Right. You don't start with a number. You start with, if we do this, at this range, we think that's going to take the following amount of hours. I'm not sure what that is, but let's just say it's 1,000 hours as a half-time person. Let's say half of, and we take a rate of $50 an hour, and that's how we get the 15,000.
Yeah.
If the rate is $12, $13, then you come to a different place. If the hours are not 1,000 hours, it's 500, and that's the point you're making. Right. We don't need the hours. We're not going to contract for the hours.
Right. Right. And if we did decide to create a part-time position, you'll have a recruitment period. You'll have a hiring period. You'll have a period in which the board would have to consider the position and approve the position. And if the workload is there where we need a full-timer and a part-timer, you're going to need a provision to cover that.
Chairman.
Yes, Supervisor Wild.
Thank you. Just a question about policy and moving forward. Who's going to make the decision about bringing the mail back in-house? Is that the Board of Supervisors? Is that your office? Because I'm in favor of using the contractor. Maybe we just have to say tighten up the ship a little bit because it's not working.
Yeah, that's a decision I would want the board's input on, and that's why I raised it today. Because if we go down that road, I believe we'll be coming back asking for another position. And if the board doesn't approve that other position, we're not going to be able to handle the workload. So I think it is important that the board is on concept with whatever we decide to do there.
Still not comfortable.
Supervisor Seaver?
Thank you. Just one last comment about it. We're spending an awful lot of time about, this possibility. And I understand you're bringing it up for consideration today, but I would very much prefer to see more information about it. Also how the print shop could eventually fold into it. So if we're going to talk about bringing the mail back in-house, I'm not prepared to make a decision on that today. And to the supervisor's point from Queensbury, who's an at-large representative, I think it's important that we look just at this as a training need. And if that's all it is right now, then 5,000 should be more than sufficient. If you need more, you come back. I mean, that's always been our practice. So I understand the discussion going on, but I think today is premature without all the information to ask us about, do we want the mail back in house, and do we want the print shop to go with it, and how will all that work out? There's a lot of moving parts to that. And I hope we're seriously considering the print shop because it's a way to increase revenues and decrease a whole lot of expense, particularly in contracting with the towns. So I think there's a broader discussion here.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if it helps to develop consensus with the understanding that if we set it at 5,000 as opposed to, as a cap, as opposed to 15 as a cap, that they're going to be back to us in short order. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if it puts it into the administrative structure, and I don't have a problem with that. I don't know why we can't feel confident that our county administrator can manage this up to 15, but if we have some colleagues that feel better at 5, then we'll set it at 5, and then Ryan, you just have, at some point there, if it goes forward, we'll have some type of amendment. Are you okay with that?
Okay, that's why I'm bringing the question to the board.
Okay.
We've put it in a certain way, but if you want to take it a different way and dial it back, that's your call.
I think in order to move forward with this, if that helps to develop the consensus, let's do it. I don't know who made the motion initially.
It may have been me, it may have been you, I don't remember, but if I was involved, I agree with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, everyone else seems to just be talking without being called on for a large part of this meeting. When at the appropriate time, would you please call on me? I can't seem to jump in between two supervisors.
Thank you for that. Anyways, I think it was moved by Mr. Conover and it was seconded by Mr. Wild. So they're both agreeable to reduce it to $5,000 in the matter of compromise to get it started. Any other discussion on these two items? Yes, Ms. Sieber.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. My comment is just it really to add on to the supervisor from Bolton's assumption that was previously made that I don't have confidence in our county administrator to do this. That's not it at all. That's not why this discussion occurred. It's that it's a complicated one with both the print shop and the mailroom. And I think it's a really important function to our county and one that we've talked about for a very long time. It has nothing to do with the ability or inability of our county administrator. I just would like the record to reflect that, and the assumptions are not necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call the question on number 10, A and B. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Pending items. Additional work to be done to present for consideration for a formalized policy for the Employee of the Month program at a future committee meeting. That will be at a future committee meeting. Number 2 is the Warren County Workplace Violence Policy to be reviewed for additional updates. And I'm not sure what the additional updates will be, so that will be a future committee meeting also. And number 3 is discussion regarding salary adjustments for 2022. Yes, Mr. Merlino.
No, I'm not on this committee, but is this something could we use in regards to Lexi DeLorean that gave us a speech last month about salaries? Is anything being done with that?
Yeah, I think that's where it stems from, I believe.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think that's where the issue arises from. I think it took place on the 12:30 meeting of personnel.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I do recall some conversations, but I'm not even sure where to go with this. And I'm not sure if it has to come from HR or from other supervisors or from you.
Right.
But I'd like some more information if we're going to make a decision about a salary adjustment. And I'm open to that. It's just, I couldn't make a decision today based on just not enough information.
Right.
If appropriate, can we just forward it on to the next month? I know it's
Yeah,
not
I
the
think
best
we-
way to do that, but
I think that's best. There was discussion about a stipend for that particular individual, so maybe that's something that we can bring forward to the committee.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Miss Hogan.
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was more than one employee whose salary needed to be reviewed. I'm just curious, what's the process for that outside of the budget process?
I don't know if there is.
Because I believe there were more than 24 employees that needed to have a review of this.
Okay,
I think that,
Mr. Conover.
as I understand the process during the budget, there are those things that are inadvertently omitted that just were oversights. And then there are those things that were, as I understand the process, where the county administrator, the budget officer, and other parts of leadership review these salaries and have to come to a conclusion because it's part of the budget. And that's the process. And I think that if that anyone that has a particular concern relative to any position in county government, any situation, should, register that concern with human resource and the county administrator and programmatically for an evaluation. And then if they feel that that an adjustment is warranted, then they would step forward within the process to make that happen. If it's an omission, that's one thing. If it's and I think that's my idea of rational, good process. I think that individual advancements or anything outside of, and I think any addition to that process that contributes to a good decision making, I'm totally supportive of. And anyone that has a mousetrap to append to that process, let me hear it. And I think that these are never easy things. A lot of people you're trying to get to a good place with everyone. It's not a perfect process, but anybody that has an addition or something to add to that process, I'm sure the budget officer would be more than welcome to hear it, as would, I think, the county administrator.
Well, I think the issue is that not everyone that was on that chart was put at their very maximum time. Longevity, it's not longevity, but their maximum time and the maximum amount of money they could have got. And I think that's where the issue is, unless I'm mistaken.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So given the narrative that there are discrepancies here between similar positions and whatnot, how do we commission an audit across all these positions to ensure that there's equity and that there's proper consideration given? I understand that it is part of the budget process, but from all of the amendments that we've just gone through where there were oversights and with concerns that have been shared by supervisors, I think, how do we go about commissioning an audit here?
I'm not sure that, when we did this process, there was 5 supervisors in the room plus the county administrator that agreed to these pay scales or whatever.
So how did the oversights?
I'm not sure what process you're looking for.
Well, I mean, we're addressing oversights.
No, I don't think there were oversights.
We just addressed a bunch of oversights. by resolution, increasing salaries.
One oversight.
I'm simply asking, how do we commission an audit? Because it appears that there are a lot of questions.
An audit? Are you saying audit?
Well, I don't know if I'm using the term correctly. How do we look at these positions and outside of the budget process and ensure that everybody has been addressed fairly?
Well, that's what the discussion is. If you have a suggestion, I'm all ears.
I'm asking what the process is.
I'm not sure that there is a process.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind. I'll
Yes, Mr. Weil.
I'll defer to Supervisor Seaver.
Supervisor Seaver?
Thank you so much, Supervisor from Queensberry. I appreciate that. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure this is a difficult discussion since you chair both budget and personnel. But my suggestion here would be, is there a way that we could please, I see that budget is scheduled on the third day, typically before personnel now, for committee meetings. Wouldn't it be possible to just put this on the budget agenda and talk more about the process that took place last year? There was a lot of debate in those discussions about the appropriate salaries, and there was a lot of compromise that took place. I don't ever think we unanimously agreed on a whole lot during those discussions, but respected the process and the job you did as budget officer. But in this capacity, I was hopeful that we could look at this from the budget context of the 48 employees plus the 7 attorneys, where there was that difference between the years of service and their merit. And then also this issue that has come up regarding a stipend. I'm very uncomfortable talking about personnel issues in open session and would love to be able to do that in executive session during a budget meeting. But I think that chart is something that our county administrator has worked really hard on, but we've all agreed that there could be tweaks to it. Maybe that discussion could take place in budget next month and talking about those positions and how we could look at modifying a chart that is a guide during the budget process. It's not adopted by the full board. That might be a step in a direction where we can have more dialogue about this. And if that chart maybe could be sent out to all of us, that would give us a stepping point to, a starting point, if that's possible.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Supervisor Wall.
Mr. Chairman, I'll give some thought to this, but I recognize it's not an easy process by any means. We have people and grades and we have certain things that we follow, but there's also the issue that we've addressed from time to time in terms of market rates and important people that we don't want to lose. So maybe it's a bonus program, maybe it's something else to help bridge these gaps. But I'm thinking that we definitely need to think about how do we retain those exceptional employees that we have. And not break the bank at the same time. So I'm not sure how we do that, but I think it's worth considering as we go forward. Time and service, I get it, but from the business side that I come from, it was more of what have you done for me lately? And what kind of accomplishments have you given to the organization that holds more weight in my mind, right? So let's, I don't mind definitely engaging in these conversations.
No, I don't mind either, but I don't like having conversations in October and then being told that I did something wrong in February or January.
Isn't that part of politics? Sorry.
Yes, Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, thank you. Here at town, what we do with salary increases, whether the request comes from the individual or others, and sometimes department heads for some of their employees, we have HR draw up a comparison. Now, this is not always easy because sometimes you're looking at eggs and apples. But in any event, they can compare what we're, as close as they can, what other counties of equivalent nature are doing with those positions. So that if our position is, say, less than the average of what we're seeing with other counties of our size, that certainly deserves looking at.
If our salary is above the average of other counties, then we need to look at that too. But that's what we do here at town. We hand it over to HR to do an analysis, and that's a tool that we can use to judge whether the pay raise should be implemented or not. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion about this?
Just,
Mr. Conover?
what we should really, I think, as an employer, try to avoid is the advancing apart from any process that exists, an individual initiative within a public meeting. That, I couldn't agree more with that comment. And I think that I'm always open to improving the process. Everybody in this room is open to improving the process to the extent that we can improve the process. So if anybody's got a mousetrap, bring it to budget meeting, and I'm sure it'll get serious consideration. Of course it will.
Absolutely. Any other comments from anyone?
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Beatty?
Yeah, thank you. Comparing other counties is a sound idea, but there's upsides and downsides to that. For example, you know, our sheriff and our undersheriff are paid 35% more than all the other counties around us. Now, I don't want to bring them back to what the other counties make. So, you know, there's upsides and downsides to that. So, you know, should it be put into the mix? Yeah. But how much weight it should be given? You know, some counties, if you start comparing positions from one county to another, maybe there's additional duties to a position in a certain county compared to our county or vice versa. So you got to be very, very cognizant of that fact. I'll give you an example. School districts all don't pay the same. They don't. They pay different amounts. Every school district pays a different amount to their teachers. They have different other benefits that are involved and so forth. So, you know, although it's okay to look at that, it can't be the premier issue that drives the number. It should be put into consideration. I agree with that. So, thank you.
Thank you for your input. You know, there's being budget officer for as many years as I have been, there's no easy way to do this. And you're never going to make everybody happy. And that's the nature of it. And if there's ideas and processes that can make it better, I'm all for it. And I'm here to listen. Part 5 is the positions that have been authorized to be filled since, well, I guess since December. Privilege of the floor. I don't know if Mr. Lehman, do we have any comments from YouTube or?
Hi, Chairman Thomas. No, there is nothing on YouTube at this point.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a little observation. The ARPA committee has been postponed now 2 meetings in a row. The committee was approved by the board of who would be the members of the board. So could you give me some insight on why or who's keeps canceling the ARPA meetings? I mean, we have a committee of, I think, 13 that was approved. Everyone had to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. And yet now we've had 2 committee meetings in a row be canceled without any explanation. Boom, I get an email. Oh, by the way, the meeting's canceled. So who's making that decision and why?
County Administrator Moore.
Mr. Moore, could you help us?
I can. The members of this committee as well as the chair of the committee are designated by a board resolution.
Correct.
And so the authority is vested in the Board of Supervisors to pass a new resolution specifying who the chair is. So in the meantime, there's no clear way as to how you would run that meeting because nobody has authority from the board to chair that meeting.
Why can't the committee select their own chairman?
The Board of Supervisors approve the chair. So the Board of Supervisors currently has that authority, the full board.
But, okay, so so what you're saying is we're gonna cancel every meeting until the committee selects a chairman and then the board approves the chairman?
Until the Board of Supervisors, following past precedent, approves the members and designates a chair in the same resolution.
But we don't have to go that route. I mean, to me, we're losing time. I see where Saratoga County is giving money to nonprofits. I mean, we've lost a month now due to canceling meetings that I think are very important to the taxpayers. I mean, we got $12.4 million, 6.2 this year and 6.2 next year. And we keep canceling meetings. We've got 13 members sitting there waiting to go. And we lose one member. Okay, I agree. That was a very, very valuable individual. But I don't see where the committee has to stop functioning and be disbanded and stop working. It doesn't make sense to me. There's no reason why. So anytime a chairman, so let's say we select a chairman at the next board meeting 2 or 3 weeks from now, and then that chairman has to leave. So we have to wait another month before we go through the whole process again and again and again. I mean, I don't understand that. Doesn't make it. It's not a lot of common sense being used there, but that's just how I see it.
Mr.
Thanks.
Chair.
Supervisor Seaver, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on that same topic, I guess my question would be, is there a way that we could ask the ARPA committee? I mean, I'm a member of that. I too was very disappointed to see 2 canceled. We as a committee, whenever any of our committees, have a meeting schedule, if in fact we have a quorum, we meet. I mean, the committee can elect a temporary chair to run a meeting. We do that all the time with our committee meetings. If we don't have enough, or the chair or the vice chair isn't there. But maybe a way to look at this would be to ask for it to go back to the ARPA committee, quit canceling the meetings, and have an opportunity for the ARPA committee to make a recommendation to the full board on filling that slot and selecting a vice chair and a chair the way that many other committees did. I mean, I applaud Supervisor Gerasi, the supervisor from Horicon, who asked, who would like to be a vice chair or a second vice chair in this committee, and the ARPA committee could act in the same way. I think they could still meet, get work done, but we went out and asked for solicitations from the community on projects. What are we saying to these people that have sent in ideas? To Supervisor from Queensberry's point, Saratoga is well ahead of us with a phenomenal idea and $2 million to not-for-profits. I also had a suggestion for a member from the community to join the ARPA committee, which I plan to bring to the ARPA meetings. So as a committee member, not being consulted at all about these meetings or the cancellation thereof, I do not believe it's within the authority of the chair of the board to cancel them or to make that appointment without the board, as was noted by our administrator, taking that vote. But why can't we get a recommendation from the ARPA committee?
Sure. Well, I'll go back to the hypothetical of what if the new chair resigns, we're in the same position. And not necessarily. The rules of the board state that the chair of the committee has the authority to designate a vice chair and a second vice chair. That designation does not exist on the ARPA committee. Those designations weren't made. So that's why it gets back to, it's not clear, utilizing our current rules, who would chair that meeting. And it's also, it seems to be that the Board of Supervisors has the authority to appoint a chair and nothing else, no other entity, no other individual. The Board of Supervisors appoints the chair because the resolution designated the chair. And the chair of the committee has the authority to designate a line of succession as to who would chair those meetings. And there is no line of succession.
Mr. Weil?
Mr. Chairman, so I'm just going to ask our administrator, is there any way we can meet, or do we have to wait until after the full board convenes?
It gets to a legal question about how do you chair the meeting?
So the answer is no, we have to wait.
That's the answer to the question of why the meetings have been canceled.
So my question still says, is there any way we can meet and continue the work without the full board approval? It's only a couple of days away, I guess. It's not that big of a deal. We'll meet right after, hopefully. Thank you.
Yeah, we do need a chair, no? Oh, yeah, Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. Look, my intent was never to throw this committee into dysfunction. I'm disappointed that this is where it's gone. I'm disappointed that we don't have better advice on how to proceed, barring, full board approval. And that we're this far into it. I mean, I resigned on the 18th of January. So, what, will a resolution be brought to the full board? I guess is my question.
I don't know. I'm getting a yes from the chairman.
A resolution suggesting a newly constituted ARPA committee will be brought to the full board at our next full board meeting.
Just the chair, I believe. I think that's what he said.
Just the chair.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You want Chairman Garrity to speak to that?
Sure.
Sure. Okay.
I'll take your translation. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Yep. Supervisor Sieber.
Thank you. I would like to hear from the chairman about this. My specific question is, we spent a lot of time on the standing rules. If she resigned, the supervisor from Johnsburg resigned on the 18th, it was clear in our rules of the board that we passed that if by the third Friday of the month, vice chair, and we didn't, unlike the supervisor from Queensbury suggested a later date, we didn't change that. The second person in line would then become the chair by the rules of our board. I don't, respectfully to our county administrator, I don't see where this falls within the discretion of our chair of the board, and perhaps the county attorney can weigh in. But why would it hurt to ask the ARPA committee members, what do you think? Who would be willing to step up to chair this? Who would be a good replacement? Who could we add to this? Who has the time to chair it or vice chair it? We haven't been contacted at all about that. Is there a way that we could just keep the meeting and operate under our rules of the board, which would allow us to do that? I didn't hear our county attorney tell us that legally we can't meet. I know with the full board, we can have a majority of the board call a vote or call a meeting by signing on to it. So I don't know if that applies to the committees or not, but this is a big disservice to the community after we've worked so hard to ask them what they need from us as it relates to recovering from a pandemic. So if those questions could be addressed, I'm not sure by whom or who's the right person, but some communication would be very helpful.
Okay. Yes, I don't have the answers to those questions.
I mean, but just so we're clear on it, I mean, my calendar says today is February 3rd. We just heard that the resignation was January the 18th. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Dated to January the 18th. I just would put that out there. That the words like disservice and words like, the sky's falling. I find curious, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to propose that the new chairman of the ARPA committee come from the ARPA committee. We've met 3 times. We spent countless hours already in getting to at least this stage. So let's let the committee determine who they think should be the chairperson of that committee. It may only make sense for the board of supervisors now, or the chairman to say, hey, by the way, let's have Joe Schmo run it now, who may not be a member of the committee. Maybe he is, maybe she is, I don't know. He doesn't communicate, so I wouldn't know, but but I strongly recommend that whoever's the chairperson of this committee come from the committee. It just makes sense to me. But again, common sense isn't so common sometimes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
Motion to adjourn?
Moved by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Conover. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?